Hello.
So,
I saw you got a hold of Mrs. Barry and Gillen.
yes, and we're gonna meet. So we haven't decided time and date yet, but we'll get together. Yeah.
Okay, Carol, you are good to start the meeting.
Okay, sounds good. So why don't we do the roll call? Daryl, you can start. Just who you are, so we get it recorded.
Daryl Bray.
Okay. Faith.
Faith Foley.
Okay. Amy.
Amy Hawansky.
Okay, and Amanda. Hi. Whoops, I think, are you on mute, Amanda?
Sorry about that. Yes.
That's okay.
Amanda Matuzik.
Okay, and Carol Carey, and then we also have Laura Robertson. John Marr said he was joining late. And Chris Zimmerman said he couldn't join it, and I'm not sure about the others. And for those who just joined, we have a conflict with this room, so Laura has to be out by a little before 7, so we're going to have to try to stay on track here and get through our agenda by a little before 7. So first is the approval of the meeting minutes from the September 9th. Did anybody have any comments on that? Amy, sometimes you did. Did you have any comments? Oops. Did we lose Amy?
Sorry, I'm having some difficulties with basically all my technology today. And I was over at the town hall and then I didn't see anyone, so I went home and tried to do it on computer, and I should have just stayed with Laura. So I apologize. So I have no comments tonight. I'm having a difficult time entering the packet.
Okay. And I didn't have any comments. It started off, I was going to have comment that they said the budget was 11,500, but then as you read through it, we got the right number of 12,500 in the pre-COVID budget levels. So it starts off on line 36 saying that the pre-COVID budget level was 11,500, but then we correct it later on in the meeting minutes, so I think we're fine there. So, does somebody want to make a motion then to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Okay, anyone want a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And Carol,
Yes.
Carol, I'm going to abstain from that, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll note the vote in the abstain. I'll note that in the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Just because I don't feel, like I haven't been able to access, so I don't want to be positive or negative. I'll just abstain.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Privilege of the floor, Laura.
Yeah, I just checked. There's nobody in the room, and I didn't receive any emails, so I'd say we have no privilege of the floor tonight.
Okay. New business.
And
then we have the discussion items, but.
Oops, yeah, sorry. I just don't have new business.
Okay. Shall we move on to the tree planting budget then?
Yes. So sorry, that's just a verbal update. We sent a memo to the town board that Carol and Chris worked on. They received it, reviewed it, and Councilwoman McGraw announced at the first budget meeting after we sent the memo that she was going to try and get it put back into the budget. And then Supervisor Syed at the next budget meeting stated one of the only changes she made to the budget was to put money back into tree planting. So I haven't seen the full budget, which I talked to her about yesterday, and she said they haven't released it yet because they're still working through some tiny details. But my understanding is that the funding was restored to COVID levels, which was the 9,000. Not terrible, not exactly what we asked for, but probably an okay compromise in my opinion, as long as we keep pushing to get it higher over time.
Yeah, and at least we got a letter in and they listened to it, and we did get double what we would have had, more than double what we would have had, because it was 4,000, and so now at least we have 9,000. So. Okay,
I'll double check that for you guys, but that was what was stated at the meeting.
okay. Along with that, Laura, you were going to find out for this meeting how much has been spent this year and
Yes.
where we stand, because what we want to make sure is that what we had is getting spent.
Yeah, so I spoke with the highway superintendent over the last few weeks, and I mean, truthfully, $0 have been spent this year. It's a little confusing when you look at the budget because encumbrances like rolled forward, so the budget looks smaller than it normally does. But they really haven't done any Town of Niskuna plantings yet this year. I asked if he needed us to hire like a contractor so that we could get that money spent, and he said that he did think we have a mild enough fall that he might still be able to get some trees in. And I sent him some locations today where they could easily plunk in over 20 trees, and they would be perfectly acceptable and good as they grew over in the Amador subdivision. Some parts of the older homes and some parts of the newer homes, but there's plenty of room for like a ton of trees over there, and then you don't have to deal with homeowners and too much locates and stuff like that. So I sent that to him. I'll follow up with him tomorrow, but hopefully we can maximize the budget that we do have this year shortly.
And can we, as we've done in the past, buy some trees this year for planting in the spring?
Yeah, I do think that's an option. We've done that before. And the other thing that I found out today is that they forgot, the elm tree place forgot about us. So I called them a couple days ago and I was like, where are elm trees? And they were like, oh, our mistake. So they're willing to ship them. They would still ship them this fall. They said elm trees are okay to plant in pretty cold weather. But they also said because it was their mistake, they're willing to ship them to us in the spring. So
that might be better. We'd get some in the spring and then some more in the fall next year.
Yes. Yep.
Mhm.
So I asked Ray
Yeah.
what his preference would be, but if we're trying to get him to massively plant a bunch of things right now, it might be better to do the elms in the spring, and they might be, a little bit bigger than too. I mean, probably not, they're probably not gonna grow
Agreed.
in the winter.
Mhm.
I think that's a good plan because we could then maximize the budget use with other trees and also raise precious time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are getting into the end of November. I mean, we are pushing it a little bit. The weather has been good, but, and then also, as we had talked about, perhaps planting trees along that roadway to Ace Hardware, we still haven't gotten that worked out with the bank. So that would give us more time to get that worked out too.
Yes, that's correct. Although I know Paul was on the call last time and was like, I don't know, but I checked with Ray, I think, about planting the trees there, and the town absolutely cannot pay for trees to go on private property without it being a public easement. That was like a no. Hard no.
Right.
So we'd have
Well,
to get.
could the bank pay for those trees? I don't know.
Yeah, the bank could pay for the trees. Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to note that Amy Lamina joined, so that we have that in our recorded notes also. So anything else on the budget?
No, that's my updates, but it's because it's so time crunchy. I'll probably give you a full update at the next town tree council meeting.
Okay, sounds good. So Tree City status, Laura, you'd put that on?
Yeah, and that's just another verbal update. I started the application for the Tree City, and it's looking good so far, but I'll try and get that wrapped up, mid-December.
Okay, and I tried to go in, but we'll talk offline. That password, we always forget what that password is.
I was actually working on it a little bit today, and it's not working. Like, I'm gonna have to reset the password and then send it to you because it was working with that password last month, and it's no longer
Okay.
working this month. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Great. Okay, why don't we move into the landscaping plans? And sorry, we're moving so quickly tonight, but so the first is Ace Hardware.
Yeah, and so Ace Hardware, really, Carol, you can take that one. That's just an update of what we did and a copy of the memo that we sent to Ace Hardware.
Okay, yeah, so Amy and Laura and I met with the representative from Ace Hardware. We walked the property. We then gave them a memo with our suggestions that they were going to review and implement or give us comments back on anything they couldn't do or they had questions about. So what Laura is showing is what the notes are from our walkthrough with the Ace Hardware representative. And Amy or Laura, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think we've heard back from Flora, but she definitely seemed to want to try and do everything that we asked, except for maybe the line of trees, which is what we're going to work on ourselves.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And the only other action that we want to stay on top of is at some point when they are ready to prune the silver maples along the front of the building, along the sidewalk, Balltown Road facing side. We want to be either on site when they're doing it or go ahead of time and flag whichever branches are going to be removed. And they agreed to that. We just want to make sure that we follow up on that.
Yeah, and we should probably, Amy, that may be you because you would have the most knowledge on the proper way to prune it than some of the other tree council members.
I'm fine with doing that. If Laura could just notify me when you hear from Flora.
Yeah, that's number 10 in our memo, and she did agree to that on site. So we'll follow up with her. And when I get the information, I'll definitely pass it on to you, Amy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, then let's, I guess, move on to the River's Ledge.
Okay, so River's Ledge, I kept on here. If you guys look through the minutes, what we had thought to do at the last meeting was kind of get a big copy of this and sit down and really parcel out the 102 river birches into some other ideas. But I didn't have time to do that, and nobody else, I don't think, grabbed hold of it. So I'm keeping it on the agenda so we don't lose it. But I think that probably the plan would be the same, where we really just need to sit down and parcel out some of these huge numbers of trees and offer some alternatives.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can, what's the timing on that? I just, when I was reading the meeting minutes, realized that was an action item we were supposed to do.
Yeah, me as well. So their buildings are getting, some of their buildings are getting close to being able to be lived in, but I don't really expect to see large scale landscaping happen here until the spring. It's pretty late in the season to be doing large scale landscaping, and the site's not ready. So I think that we do have time. We may see landscaping go in on one, like the foundation landscaping go in on one building, but I haven't heard anything from them that they're actually starting the landscaping there. So my guess is actually all of it may happen in the spring. You just may see, like, we have two different types of allowances for people living in a building, a temporary CO and a final CO. And the temporary CO often means the inside of the building is okay to live in, but the outside isn't fully finished. Happen a lot before, like, grass can be established and stuff. And I think that's what's going to happen here. So some people may move in, but we wouldn't release a final CO until we were happy with the landscaping and the landscaping plan.
Okay.
So Laura, are you able then, a couple of things, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we talked at one point about doing a walking tour rather than trying to do it from a blueprint plan.
Oh, yes, that's a good idea.
And if you're able to set that up, and if you think it's better to set it up in the spring, then understood. Or if you want to do a walkthrough now, so we get a sense of where. And with the understanding that, of course, that may change because they're still moving stuff around and building stuff. So if you're able to set up something like that, perhaps that would be helpful. And I think we also talked about, if we can't do the walk around, can we meet over at your office there and just physically lay out the blueprint so it's easier to see than on our screens.
Yes, that is definitely what we talked about before. I will send an email to the site manager for Rivers Ledge tomorrow morning, seeing if we could schedule a walkthrough. I'm not sure that I could do it this week, and I'm off for Thanksgiving next week, but maybe the first week in December, and I'll confirm when they plan on doing the landscaping.
Okay.
Right. And if they think, if they're like, hey, there's no way we're doing this before March or April, then, maybe we don't do the walk around until then, if they think so much stuff is going to change that it wouldn't even be beneficial. So we could delay if they feel that they're not at that point yet.
Okay, I mean, the buildings aren't going to change, and the majority of the buildings are up. So I think you can get a really good sense of what it looks like. But as typical to the tree council, every time we schedule a, kind of a long walkthrough, it's like -3 degrees. So, I mean,
I know.
so we can
That's
just
so
kind of
true.
see how it works.
It's not even 30, it's -3.
Yeah,
You're
I
totally
know.
right.
And we can't take pictures because all our phones die. And that's just the way that it is when we're on the tree council.
Yeah.
Okay, so Laura, you'll follow up with us on that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. The Eastern Parkway multi-use building.
Okay, so that one is, you guys saw this one before and made a recommendation to put large trees. So this is the existing building. I'll bring it big for you. Sorry. I was just making a note so that I wouldn't forget the on-site meeting. So this is the existing building that's getting
Which page are you looking at?
it would be page it starts on page 10. Oh, sorry, Carol, we skipped 9. 8 is Rivers Ledge. 9 is a new part of Rivers Ledge. And actually, I think we should just roll this all up into what we were talking about. But I did want to note this one. This is proposed as a 3-story building, and they're removing, this one is actually forest right now, so they're removing the forest and putting the building there. And they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees in front of the building. So this one needs a lot more tree council work. So if we do that site walk and site meeting looking at these plans, let's include recommendations on this. This is page 8 is phase 1, page 9 is phase 2. And so we need to look at both things.
Okay. So we'll combine that when we get together. We'll look at both.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then page 10 is just the beginning of the 2147 Eastern Parkway. Page 11 is the demolition plans. But they do want to save the existing trees along the boundaries in the demolition plans. And then this is their planting plan over here. So I'll zoom in on it for you guys. And I initially looked at this and was like, they put 2 trees. And they're not even in the right of way. But then I looked at the street view and I realized, and you can see it, there's power lines overhead between the trees and the right of way. So I'm wondering if maybe we can ask for something smaller. Like these 2 are big trees. These 2 are little leaf lindens. And then he had said that he will put a line of arborvitae between this building and the parking lot just for shielding, which is kind of an aside. But with the sidewalk and the power lines, you can't fit the big trees that we asked for because their power lines are right there.
Okay, so we could suggest some smaller trees that go under power lines?
Yeah, and these trees would be planted like directly under them. So they have to be those really little ones that National Grid recommends.
Okay.
But those power lines, if I remember correctly, that they're not directly over they're in front of that planting area.
They were in front of the trees that were there, but this building is putting in a sidewalk, basically where the trees were. And so that pushes the tree plantings under the power line. So do you see, like, here's the edge of pavement here, and here's the sidewalk. If you look at where the power lines, and for some reason they don't have the power lines on the planting thing, but that's where the power lines are. And the sidewalk's going like right along the property line. So
Is it possible, I drove over there previously, is it possible to do a meeting at the building site again for this one as well?
oh sure, yeah, with the developer or without the developer?
I think maybe just some tree council people with you there, because again, it's just not the same seeing it from the blueprint as being there actually, and
Yeah.
kind of getting a sense for the neighborhood and how things are going to flow and what people are seeing driving and what people are seeing walking. And I think we could make good decisions being on site.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
I did want to say, like, we generally speaking don't seem to mind Little Leaf Linden. That seems fine. They have Inkberry. I mean, it's not like terribly imaginative. Spirea, Daylily, and Fountain Grass. I don't think any of those are on our prohibited list, though.
No, but I mean, more daylilies, more daylilies, more. It's just
It's
we
the
just have
happy
so many
return.
opportunities, and I hate to see the same old happening. You know.
Yeah, so maybe
Or even grasses.
do you guys want, maybe like we can meet on site, but initially we can say we'd like to see a little more variety in the landscaping and pass it on to the planning board for their December meeting?
Sure. And again, what's the timing on this one, Laura? Like how soon do you?
This one has a faster timeline because he's very close to planning board approval, and he's very close to planning board approval, and then it would be up to him when he wants to start building. I mean, the planning board can say final landscaping to be approved by the tree council, but I think he wants to start, I mean, who depends on the winter, but he could start building this thing in the winter if he wanted.
When is the next planning board meeting where they will be talking about the project?
So that would be, I have it right here. Hold on. Oops. December 13th. They have a meeting on December 13th, but I could send him some preliminary comments like tomorrow to see if he could incorporate them into his plan.
And we could meet before then.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's the question. Can some of us meet before then so that we have specific recommendations instead of, hey, do better?
Yeah, we could do that.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So that one we should probably not push off to the first week in December. That's a shorter meeting. Let's see if we could get that done this week, if we can.
Copy.
Mhm.
So I'll look at my schedule and send out some proposed times to meet out there this week, and then we can send those comments to the developer and try and have him incorporate them into the plans for the planning board to look at for December 13th.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think John just joined. Welcome, John.
Hear anything?
We can hear you, John. So should we, anything else on the Eastern Parkway? Should we
Hold on,
move on to the townhouse?
I gotta mute John. Okay. I'm sorry, John. Yes. And this one is also new to you guys, I believe. So this one is a long-term time frame, but I think I asked for them to look at planting street trees. And this is
Where is this, Laura?
so before I zoom in, the top is the WRGB and the bottom CVS. And this, like right now, there's single family homes in there. Some of it's forest. But I'll just zoom in. I asked them to put street trees, and you see these do you see these little green dots? They put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9,
10,
10,
11,
11,
12,
12, 13, 14 street trees. So this one might be a like meet with the developers and explain to them like what we look for as a tree council, because this might just be they're from different towns and haven't worked with us before. But obviously you can't do a development like that and only plant 14 street trees. Like, it needs some major tree council work.
Yeah, and it also looks like in their minds, they're considering Van Antwerp and Balltown as the street, but wouldn't we also consider the interior
Yes.
streets
Yes.
as places to put trees as well? Because there's a whole bunch more that you could put in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like some of the buildings don't even have trees. Like the little square guys on the inside have no street.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it needs some major work. Like, what I think might be useful is to see if I can have them maybe come to a tree council meeting or something, so that we can really start talking to them about how to re-tree the site. They're going to take a lot of trees down if this gets approved. So we definitely want to see tree-lined streets, buildings with lots of trees, like everything we can do to make this become in harmony with the neighborhood if it gets approved.
And Laura, I'm
Yeah.
still confused where this is.
So I can maybe put it in a bigger map, or does it have a bigger map? Down here at the bottom is the intersection of Van Antwerp and Balltown. You know, that
Okay.
funny intersection that has a terrible trajectory. And
Mhm.
like, this is Almeria and Barcelona. This is CBS. And just up a little more is the intersection of Balltown and Knott.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So right now there's like
And-
four single family homes. You can kind of see them in the aerial underneath these proposed homes. There's like 4 little single family homes.
Yeah.
And they
Mhm.
have some really nice silver maples in front of them. And over here, there's only 1 single family home, and then the rest is forest. So
Are they going to try to
Laura?
keep the silver maples?
I have asked for them to try and keep the silver maples. It was something that we talked to them. This is the second time we've seen this proposal, but the first time it got withdrawn because it was very close to getting not approved. And the first time, I don't know if the tree council remembers, but they said that you have to save the silver maples. I don't know that we've said that to them on this go round, but if they can be saved, I definitely think they should be. They're huge and beautiful.
Are they street trees?
They're street trees, yeah.
Yeah, so don't you think we should say that?
Yeah. And also, then we should say you need to plant like 100 more,
Mhm.
at least.
Yeah. And Laura, what is the blue outline, the dotted blue line?
So these are stormwater management and bioretention areas.
Okay. So I'm assuming then, if you look at unit 9, 10, 11, 12 stacked up from north to south, up and down vertically on our screen, between that, their right-hand side and the beginning of the blue dotted lines, I mean, even more trees could be in there, right? And more, I mean, it doesn't just even have to be street trees. This is a huge area where a lot more trees could be added,
Right.
rather than the 14 that they've done.
Exactly. And definitely needs
And-
a lot more work.
Pond
Yeah.
or marshland in there. So that's something that would have to be looked at for tree planting.
Yes.
Say that again, Daryl?
It's very
There's
wet.
in that blue area, it's very wet. And I think there's actually a pond in there maybe, or maybe it's a seasonal pond. I don't know, but it's extremely wet.
Yes.
So
So certainly, we could certainly recommend trees for wet sites, and that, may attract birds and wildlife for that area. And then there's a whole bunch of space where Van Antwerp intersects with housing unit 17, 18, 19, and 20, like up in that area. That looks like there would be a lot of space for them to add trees there as well.
Yeah.
Laura, is that a wetland? Is that considered a wetlands area, what Daryl was talking about?
So it is a delineated wetland by the Army Corps of Engineers, but they declared it as non-jurisdictional. I don't know exactly why, but apparently, like, there's some thing that was done here a long time ago with the drainage, and the drainage on the site doesn't go anywhere or connect into any stream. And so they consider it non-jurisdictional, which means if it's non-jurisdictional, they're allowed to fill it, but it is wet for sure.
Wow. Chris would probably know.
I mean, I honestly have not ever seen a non-jurisdictional determination within the town of Niskayuna, except for one on Anthony Street once, which was even weirder because it was right along the river. But anyway, they do all of this stuff and they submit it to the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Army Corps of Engineers is the one that decides. And they have a non-jurisdictional determination on the wetlands.
And that's the final word.
That is the final word. The town can't overrule the Army Corps of Engineers on that. It can be rechecked.
It doesn't look
Laura-
like we're planning any kind of buildings in that area though, which is good, right?
Yeah, because they have the permit to disturb it. It is better to keep it non-impervious anyway.
Right.
But they are going
Laura.
to make it into retention areas or swales versus leaving it as is.
Yeah, they haven't gotten to the point of engineered drawings, and I'm actually looking at this closely now with you guys, more closely than I've looked at it before. But bioretention areas are usually dug and then planted, and this is stormwater management pond. So yeah, if you're building these blue dotted things, you do build them, you do grade them, and then you replant them. So to me, that would mean that this whole site would be disturbed and then replanted. Sometimes that's not a terrible thing because it could be overrun with invasive species, but most of the time it's pretty traumatic to have that. I mean, that looks like a decent amount of stormwater management taking up the majority of that open space there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, what if we said we wanted it rechecked? Is that?
I think that's totally fine. It has been rechecked. I mean, it was submitted to the Army Corps to begin with, but we can ask for them to double check it and also clarify if all the trees are going to be removed to build a stormwater management pond there. That's what it looks like to me, though. I'm looking at it with you guys right now, but that's what it looks like to me.
Do you know how in other sites where it was -30 and we were walking around, we were trying to acknowledge or count or find or figure some way to determine how many good trees, and by good I'm using, substantial trees that we thought were going to be cut down, and we would note that number, and then they would have to replant that number. It may be beneficial to do that here so that we have an understanding of how much stuff is being removed, so that we can say we need this amount being put back in.
Yeah, but I still hate to take down a lot of old trees and plant small, young ones. If we can save as many of the old ones.
Well, agreed. What I mean is, you know how they cut them down anyway?
Yeah, I know.
So like if we have some sort of, are they removing 5 trees, or is their intention to remove 100 trees? That would be a dramatic difference.
It's a wooded lot.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of trees. So I'm making notes. So we'll check into the wetland determination. We need to note the number of trees removed. The developer can actually do that for us. Do a survey of the
I will
trees.
say that I have met with the developers. This is right across the street from me. I know John also probably walks by this every couple of days. There's a lot of trees in there. It's a lot of wet area. And one of the things that I talked to the developers about when I met with them was saving as many trees as possible. And that was their intention as well. So, and you take them at their word for that, I suppose. I mean, I don't have any reason to doubt them, but I would like to see that more
Clarified and delineated, Daryl, because yeah, what they say is saving all the trees versus what we want may not. It would be good if like we, again, and if we could mark the old trees that we would like them to save.
Yeah, which we can do in our code.
Yeah, like we've done before. And also, I think Chris and Daryl have brought up, rightfully so, in the past, this whole town center concept, and both of these streets would fall, Balltown and Van Antwerp would fall under that concept of we want to have this continuous, unified look all the way from past the curling club up to the intersection there with Union, all the way down to the high school. So this section, it's not just, you can't just throw in any old tree for even the green ones that they have marked right now, because we want this unified look to be built upon in the future as we continue to add trees along these corridors.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point
Okay.
too.
So Laura, do you have what you need?
Yeah,
Right
I
now.
made those notes and I'm just going to add the town center note. Hold on. So what I feared would happen, Carol, people are trickling in for the next meeting already.
Okay.
But
we do have till 7 or if,
well,
like,
they'll
I
have to
know,
get set up for their meeting. So I think we should aim for like 6:45, 6:50.
Okay. So we'll have to be quick for the next ones. With public outreach, we did have the fall foliage photo contest. Hopefully people saw the winners. We also, and John can give you more details, but we also can now have website hits, and we've had a total of 1,118 website hits. And on November 9th, when we did the email push, we got 569 website hits. So that seems to be, I'm very pleased with those numbers. But it seemed like a lot of people went in and looked at the fall foliage photos. And John, do you have more information on that?
I was just going to comment, the number of hits on that Tuesday was more than 10 times the number of entries we had, if you think about that. People kept going.
Wow.
Lots of people went to go look at it, or they went to look at it over and over again or something, right?
Yeah, I'm sure if they got an email about the fall, photos, people would be interested to go in and look at them.
I could also tell you which pages were visited, how called the entrance pages, how they got to our website. Far and away, most people went straight to the fall photo contest because we had that link in our message. So I can't tell you whether they went from there to explore elsewhere on our page. I can say that there's been 83 hits that went straight to the top page. So I guess that's kind of encouraging too.
Did we ever manage to get a hold of the people who were missing email addresses? How did that all pan out?
Yeah.
I think Laura tackled that, right?
Yeah, so that did work out. I was able to track 2 of the winners down, and the third one saw their name in our notice and came to town hall. So all the winners received their prizes. I made certificates for all of the people who, actually I made certificates for everybody because I was putting everything in an envelope for them. So I made certificates for the winners, certificates for the honorable mentions, and then certificates for participation awards for the kids under 12. And they all got the ice cream coupon. And I think I've got all but maybe 3 of them. They've all been distributed except for maybe 3 of them. But I just very positive feedback. And I had a lot of people say they loved it and they want to see it again. And I know we talked about maybe doing a different season and maybe making a calendar. So I thought it went really well. I received a lot of positive feedback. The only negative feedback, and this is just the way it works, is that when we put the email blast out, we also crashed our site. so our IT guy got a bunch of calls from people saying your site isn't working, and he was like, "What site?"
That's the price of popularity, really.
But
You know, now that
we
we've hit the
had to
big
make
time.
it bigger. So Jonathan worked with Steve Signell, who used to be on our tree council, and made the site bigger. And so it won't crash again for that reason. And we may just be able to work with Steve to be on call for our website issues, or we may just migrate our website to the town website. But I thought it went really well.
Yeah, and John's been doing a great job. I mean, as I was kidding with him, you know, when he joined the tree council, he didn't know he was going to be 24/7 IT support, because when we were having those issues after the email blast, he was right on it. So and contacting Steve, and they got it fixed. So that was great. Yeah, it seems like there's been very positive feedback. So Laura, that's great that everybody's gotten their prizes, because we were a little worried how to get in touch with them. Oh, and also the Gazette contacted us that they were interested in putting it in the Niskuna, the Urt Niskuna. So we haven't seen that yet, but we sent all the originals to them. And so maybe that'll show up in one of the weekly supplements.
Yeah. I also sent them a little snippet about Andrea, because in case they wanted to like include that in there, as just what the tree council was doing with that picture of her and her Dawn redwood tree, because that tree's so cool. Which Amy probably already knows this, but for the Gazette, I was just double checking things. And did you guys know that that was originally considered to be a fossil, and it only was ever found in fossil form for like 20 years, and then they discovered it living in China and propagated it from there. So like people call it the living fossil tree. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that.
Yes. There's 3 trees that the ginkgo is also that old as well.
The dinosaur tree.
The ginkgo and Dawn redwood. And the reason that they surmise that some of these trees can live that long is because they're on the sides of cliffs sometimes, which is not easily harvested when you are cutting down wood for harvesting wood.
So I know, Laura, where people are coming in. That was everything we had on the public outreach. Chris isn't here for the tree master plan. I don't think anything we've moved forward with that as yet.
Yeah.
And the tree planting subcommittee, Amy, do you have any updates on that?
I think we covered that already with the elm trees, if we can get those moved to the spring, and then trying to use up our budget with the help of Ray planting. And then at the last minute, I know we have to always wait till the last minute if, and Paul has made the list previously of what trees we can purchase this year, but not pick up until the spring of next year.
Yeah, we've typically done that with Northern. So,
And do you think
Right.
they'll allow us to do it again? I know Paul's not there, so we still have that same arrangement, Laura?
I'll try. So I'll try and do that tomorrow, because the timing is so short. I'll schedule
Mhm.
the meeting for Eastern, and then get with Ray to see if we want to move the elm trees to the spring, and then use up the planting budget for this fall. Try and
Okay.
have
And
that
I
wrapped up.
I know that Paul has said in the past, like, sometimes Ray wants us to wait until the last minute just to make sure that he has a chance to use some of the money for, other, don't they have to save some for?
Correct. We don't typically order
Removal?
those trees until the last week in December.
Yeah. And it's like this mad rush.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, we haven't spent anything on trees this year.
that's true. We can definitely, I think, get in there and try as hard as we can to spend that so that we don't lose the tree funding, for sure.
Yeah, particularly since we're asking for it, to be restored, and then we haven't spent this amount. That's not gonna.
Yeah, I mean,
Looks
we
like
know
it.
that it's going to fluctuate, but I think in our letter we noted that 2 years ago, 40 trees were taken down. I think last 2 years, 20. This year, it's 100 trees that have been taken down. And it is going to
Whoa.
fluctuate a lot, but we definitely need to get the replacement trees out there.
Mhm.
And Laura, didn't we also talk about using some of the monies for our, like our vests and our hats and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we can take that out of planning miscellaneous as well. But yes, we're working on that.
Mhm. So was there anything else that we needed to cover from any of the subcommittees?
Oh yeah, sorry, no, 80 trees this year to date, on October 25th. But that's still like double what we've seen.
Yeah,
for
that's
the
a
last
lot.
few years. Yeah.
I want to apologize for not being as involved as I wanted to be with the fall foliage contest, but I'm glad that it went well. I hope that we can do it again in another few months, maybe in the winter scenes.
I think that was a big hit. You know, it didn't. Oh, and I did reach out to Stewart's and send them the link to the fall foliage winners and just thank them for donating their prizes.
Yeah,
So-
I also sent an email to Rico's and ShopRite, and Rico's replied back. They went and looked at the pictures. They're really nice pictures. Let me know if you ever want my help again.
Oh yay, that's great,
Great.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
we may
Good
need
work
those.
on that.
So
It was a lot of fun.
it was, yeah, and it was beautiful photos that we can use and put up on our website, and it was just nice to look at. I sent it to some people, friends outside of Niskuna, and said, you have to go take a look at these. So
I think it will build too as we do it because I think people will like it. So
mhm.
I'll be honest, I felt
I
like
think-
this was really a poor season for colors. I mean, truthfully. So, I mean,
Comparatively, yeah. But that
Yeah.
being said, the pictures were stunning. A lot of them.
Yeah. And we ended it October 31st, and they were still changing colors in early November.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, and also, Laura, didn't the first time it went out, the link wasn't working? So, I think, you know, if we get those glitches fixed, we'd get even more entries because it was a while before we sent out that second email.
yeah, it was a learning process, but
Mhm.
I think it'll definitely build.
So,
I think it's a great idea that you guys had to do each season. That will be awesome.
yeah, and then maybe we can do something with that, a calendar or something. We'll see. So,
I love
Yeah.
that idea.
okay, well, Laura, I know that your room is being taken over. So, thanks, everyone. I guess, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second it. Amy, do you want? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Okay, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Good to
Thanks,
see you.
guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
Thank you,
Carol.
Carol.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Laura. Thank
Bye.
you, Carol.
Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.